what it means for the program.
Yeah, it's sweet. I mean, it's what you work for to get a chance to be in the mix at the end. And for this group especially, I'm really proud of what they've achieved, and I'm really glad that they get this opportunity because I think as much, maybe if not more than any other group, they've earned the right to be here. And so it's great. Yeah, we're very excited.
You faced them way earlier in the season. Is there anything that you can learn from that game to apply to now, or is it too far in the past and the teams changed too much?
I'm sure both teams have probably evolved, but there's at some point has to be a fundamental belief that you can win the match. And if you've never beaten a team, it's probably hard to believe that. But if you have, well, maybe then you think it's possible.
Coach, by the seedings, you're an underdog. Do you feel like you're an underdog going into this?
I feel like we've been an underdog most of the season. I mean, just we've had injuries, we've had all kinds of stuff we've been trying to manage, and like I said, this has been a remarkable group, and they've dealt with all of that really well. So one of the things that I think has been great for our competitive maturity is just freeing ourselves of expectations and just playing the best we can, and that seems to have been a pretty good method for us so far.
What have you told your team about what the Final Four experience and atmosphere is like?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's a great event. It really is. But you go from feeling like volleyball's, important to people that care about volleyball. All of a sudden, it becomes this national stage almost, and so there's a lot more demands in terms of media and a lot of other distractions. And so, really, just trying to keep them on task and trying to get them to understand that the most important thing is just us being true to ourselves and the goals that we've set for the program and the team, and the other stuff's all great, and we'll do our best to enjoy all of that, but certainly we don't want all of that external stuff to get in the way of what we have to do to try to achieve our goals.
For the players, how are you going to handle the pressure of the Final Four? Neither of you have been there before, right?
I think we're going to approach it just like we would in any other game. We're going to treat it the same way, play point to point. I mean, that's what Hugh always says, 1 point at a time.
Yeah, going off of that, I think same thing. I don't really feel pressure. I think it's just another game. So just treat it like it.
But it's not.
Well, and we talk about that too, right? I mean, there is an emotional component to it, and we're not naive to the fact that it's like every other game, but it isn't. But so just to kind of give their comments some context, it's not that we think that we're robots and we just show up and go through the motions. But we got to understand that we also can respond to that response. If we get an emotional response at the moment, we can take a breath and step back and get back to just doing our job. And I think that's really what they're speaking to, is the idea that we can just control these moments. You put enough good moments together, then maybe you've got a chance.
It's one thing to hear that from your coach, but when you have other teammates, friends that have been through this before, how does that help you as you kind of deal with all that comes along with the Final Four?
I think having Lex and Tamo, who have already been through it, they've kind of been able to guide us and help us through it. And I think they've been the ones encouraging us to just know and understand that, like, it is just a game at the end of the day. Nothing changes. Yes, we're on a bigger stage. There's a way bigger audience, but the most important thing is that we stick together and focus on our side of the net and just play good Gopher volleyball.
For you guys as players, after going 5 sets in a tough match against Florida, what was that moment like to get the clinching point Saturday and know that you're one of the last 4 teams left?
I think it was pretty surreal. I mean, I know the last couple points of that match, just knowing that we were so close to reaching a goal that we've been working for the past year. And I don't know, I mean, it was really cool. It's really hard to describe, but
Adanna, you said the consistency was better in that Louisville match than the previous 2 matches. What was working better, and what do you think you can kind of carry over to this match in Stanford?
I think just overall, everyone doing their job. I think we got on each other in the Florida game like, hey, we just need to go back and do our jobs. And I think once we settled and started doing our jobs, everything just flowed together. And I think that's something we did really well against Louisville, and it got us what we wanted.
For the players, beyond advancing, did that Creighton comeback change your team in any way, make you harder? I mean, you're on the ropes. You're not going to get out of the pavilion again, and then all of a sudden you're surviving.
yeah, I think that match against Creighton made it very real for us. We were points away from our season ending. So for our team and the way we battled back and were able to come together, and I think especially those game points when it was 22-24 in the fourth set, and the fact that we were able to overcome that adversity and just win a game like that, it was really cool. And I think our approach up to the next coming games were just like, they changed quite a bit. We were able to just stick together, play it point to point, do our job. Yeah.
Hugh, you talked about the unfamiliarity against a lot of these teams in the NCAA tournament at Stanford's a little different. You guys have faced them 4 in the last 5 seasons. So do you feel any different going against this team that you've actually seen a decent amount the past couple of years?
Well, yeah. You're right. We've got to play them this year. We play them pretty regularly, which is I think it's a really good thing. So I don't think in any way does familiarity breed contempt in this particular circumstance. It's just we'll have a pretty good idea of what they're going to do, and they'll have a good idea of what we're going to do, and we'll see what happens from there. But I think there's a tendency with teams that have historically had a high level of success to maybe build more to it than the fact that it's just a volleyball game. That we're just going to go play and see what happens. So I think there's some I don't know if we'll call it comfort, but there's something there about the fact that, hey, you know what, we know what we got to do, and we just got to go do it. Now, whether we can do it at the right level or not, that's a different question, right? But we free ourselves of a lot of expectation by having played them a fairly regular amount.
As a team, they're one of the top team hitting percentage. They have one of the top hitting percentages in the country. What are they doing on the offensive side that is able to just create that efficiency in their attacks?
They have some very strong attackers, and the setter's running a nice offense. So yeah, they're able to have good balance, which is something that I think we also have. So yeah, their transition game has also been a strength of theirs. I think out of system, they're able to find ways to kill the ball. So we'll have our work cut out for us, but we'll have a good plan, and I think we've gotten better since we last saw them too. So. Yeah.
Talk about Adanna's performance lately. I mean,
yeah, Studley.
Offensively,
she's big time, right? I mean, it's and I said this at the press conference after the regional final. I mean, not many people understand the weight that you have to carry as a 6 rotation outside, and for our season, especially this year, with a lot of turmoil, a lot of chop. She's in there grinding away, doing her thing, helping us out, and then here at the end to see all of that work paying off for her and for us. I mean, for her, I don't think anyone on our team gets too caught up in the accolades or whatever, and that's someone else's opinion of your performance, right? But just the fact that she's here committing to this team and working so hard to get better and to perform at such a high level at a critical moment in the season was awesome. I gave her a hug afterwards and told her I was proud of her, because I am. I think she's come through a lot. She did a great job, and I thought she was big time. She's a stud.
How much Big Ten pride is there in this? I know you talk about it being the toughest conference. You got 2 of the.
Well, I mean, here's 4 out of the top 8 teams, right? The Elite Eight's half of it's out of the Big Ten. So, it speaks for itself. And I think the conference should take some pride in that. It is a grind, and it is tough, but it's pretty great to know when you get to this phase of the season that you've had to play lots of weekends where it's back-to-back tough matches. That sets you up pretty nicely into the tournament.
Talk about that. Just having you played last year as a freshman and done well, and then preparing you for this moment. Do you think as the Big Ten season went along, did it prepare you for this?
Yes, for sure. I just think Big Ten this year was harder just because everyone has gotten better, and I just think in practice just having to work harder on my skill. I think that's what helped this year and stuff like that, and also Hugh just kind of coaching me and keeping me consistent has helped, and my teammates encouraging me to keep fighting because it's really hard. It really is hard. So I think that.
And anything particular in practice that you were working on to just kind of get you a little better to this point?
For sure. I think hitting-wise, just working on my footwork because it's a little choppy at times. But also just making sure my serve receive is good because teams are always coming at me and stuff. So I think those two have been my main ones that I've been working on.
And for you, just seeing her perform at that level, I'm sure you had the confidence in her. She's a great high school player, and she had a good freshman year, so you weren't surprised.
No, not at all. I mean, especially her performance in the last couple matches and tournament play. She's been awesome, and she's really helped to carry our team offensively, especially. And I think just overall our team has just done really well at sticking together, and no matter what we were facing on the other side of the net, we focused on our side and our goal for volleyball.
Hugh, Plummer, two-time National Player of the Year, probably 3 Sullivan Award winner. Are you playing Michael Jordan of volleyball?
She's pretty good, yeah. I mean, she's really good. I mean, she's got to be amongst one of the all-time great collegiate volleyball players, no question. And we get that and we respect that. She's good. So, we'll do our best to defend it. But, yeah, she's a handful. And but there's a lot of good players this year, So we'll see how it all works out on Thursday or Friday maybe for Player of the Year. But, no, she's the real deal, no question.
CC, you had a strong performance the first time around against Stanford. What do you remember about that match and their big hitters that they had?
I think our blockers did especially a good job at setting up and making my life a lot easier in the backcourt. But I think, again, like we've been saying, just point to point, yeah, they have a lot of offensive attackers who are really strong. But I think as long as we just do that again, play consistent, play simple, I think it'll be a good match.
Does it hit you guys as players that you're one win away from playing for a national championship, or do you not let yourself know?
Yeah, it hasn't hit me.
I think it'll hit us when we get there. I think it's still just like it was a quick turnaround. We just got back, and I don't know. I think once we get there and we start practicing, it'll be real. But it's exciting.
We've got athletes finishing finals. We had athletes doing finals this morning. I think someone's turning in a paper here any second, and so they're trying to take care of the student part, of student athlete, and then once we get on the plane this afternoon, then we'll start worrying more about the athlete part.
Did air conditioning give you the strength to not having sapped your strength in August and September?
No question.
Yeah.
Did any of you attend the Final Four here? I mean, was it kind of too hard to watch?
No. I went to the semifinals. I saw both, and I think it was a good experience to go watch because, that's my dream, to go play. And so, just like a year ago, watching, I was like, man, I really want to be there. And then now, we're here, and it's awesome. I think it was a good experience to, see that and, see how these teams got there and stuff like that. I think it's a good experience.
Was it extra motivation? Just, I know it probably thought about it all year, hey, we got this.
For sure. It was a good motivation. I even took a picture of the court and, kind of remember, look at it here and there. Yeah. It's cool.
It seems like every set goes, right down the wire. What makes it different at this stage when you got the best athletes, the best teams?
Yeah.
Is there one thing you can focus on that the team that does this the best is going to win?
Well, it's really a game of inches, as you said, and I do believe that just having the discipline to do your job, consistently point in, point out, regardless of the length of the rally, just that ability to be in the right spot at the right time is generally a difference maker. And we talk all the time, coaches, about controlling the things you can control. It turns out that's really hard to do, especially for long periods of time. But that's the difference, I think, is the discipline, the mental capacity to just stay in it as long as it takes to win that point, or at least to give yourselves the best possible chance to win that point.
You talked about the need for offensive production before the Florida match, and it was better against Florida and Louisville than the previous matches. What was clicking more?
I just think we had some good balance, and our pins were good. Adanna had a couple of good matches we spoke to, but Lexi and Steph and the middles were going pretty well. So, for us, if we've got all the cylinders firing, I think that's great, because then we can create space and attack space a lot of different ways. For having to lean on one or two players, it gets to be tough because then teams will start loading up and focusing on one kid more than another, and then it gets to be more challenging. But I thought just the fact that we had good balance really worked in our favor. And Kai had a good match. Obviously, her distribution was right on too, right? Yeah.
Is this what makes sports fantastic for you, that last year you leave here with the great agony, and this year, does it make this even better, that now you get to celebrate? I mean,
Yeah, we don't, and we'll let the athletes speak to this too, right? But we don't spend too much time reflecting because we don't really have time, because it's always the next one, the next one, the next one. But I'd imagine, when the dust settles, you look back and there was obviously some significant pain, exiting in the Sweet 16, and we had so many big dreams that didn't come to fruition. And this year maybe it was a little more tempered, but also there was some other stuff that we had to go through as well. So the expectations probably were a little bit different. The way we got here was obviously a little bit different, and the fact that we're here, given that we've had to manage all these different adversities this year over last year, kind of rolling through the Big Ten, and we won it after 9 weeks, and the last week didn't really matter, and you know what I mean? Like, there was just a completely different narrative. So I think it's profoundly satisfying, and I hope the team takes great pride in the way that they managed that moment, because it could have defined us, but obviously it didn't. We got into trouble in the PAV against a really good Creighton team, number 15, I think. And I don't know about last year. Maybe Oregon was ranked number 15 too at that point. I don't know, but they obviously were good too. And yet we were able to find a way to win. And so how great to change that narrative in the PAV, but then to go on the road and have a couple of big wins and to get back to the Final Four speaks a lot to the resilience of these athletes. Anything you guys want to add to that? Does that feel about right?
I think you summed it up pretty well.
All right.
Adanna, against Louisville, you had a lot of success attacking the block. Is that part of the strategy coming in, and you're going to try to do that against Stanford too?
I don't know. I just think trying to play to win. I don't know.
We don't want to give away too many tactics here. Come on.
Yeah, just play to win. I was just getting up there and swinging. So I think that's what I did. And I'll try to do that against Stanford too.
for the players, you can look over to the sideline and see your